Welcome guys. Special thanks to Lost Ark streamer Harununa and her viewers when clearing this trial Hanumatan raid.
Hello, I'm Harununa. I was the IIS supporter in the raid. This raid is not normalized and is focused on patterns rather than mech, so it's like a mini famine. It's very fun and it also gives tasty rewards. Memo will explain the rest. Stagger chat, spam noted.
Back to Memorizer 92. This raid has a normal mode and a hard mode. The normal mode requires 1600 and the hard mode requires 1630. Whatever you clear, you will get a common reward which includes 2 random legendary card pack version 3, XP cards, Hanu card, and 5 million silver. You also get a Hanumatan trophy and a title that translates to Earthbreaker. On top of that, normal mode gives 8,000 gold and the hard mode gives 25,000 gold. If you clear the hard mode right away before clearing the normal mode, then you will automatically get the gold from the normal mode as well. So in that case, you get 33,000 gold in total. Card set. There's a specific set that you want to use. It's not mandatory, but it's really good for this raid. Full Awakening of A Voice Calls. With this card set, for back attackers, you add Full Awakening of 3 Umar families. For head attackers, Full Awakening of Platina's people. For free positionals, Full Awakening of Triarchy. For the supporter, Full Awakening of You Have a Plan. Free positional classes lose a little bit of damage compared to Light Salvation plus Lost Windcliff, but what really matters is the damage reduction from each set. Idealistically, they should be fully awakened. You can try to run it without being maxed just because of the damage reduction, but you might have to run Light Salvation instead if the party lacks DPS. Battle items: Dark Grenade or Whirlwind, Splendid Sacred Bomb, Atropine for DPS, and Stimulant for supporter. The boss does a lot of earthquake patterns, so throwing a Splendid Sacred Bomb to the teammate will cleanse them. You can also throw it on yourself in advance to immune the earthquake when you don't have a spacebar. Since it's a Guardian raid, you have to kill him in 20 minutes. Also, the boss is tauntable. Hanumatan has 4 phases depending on how much HP percentage is left. Raid system. Whenever you land attacks on the boss, you get buff stacks that last for 12 seconds. Whenever you get hit by the boss, you lose these stacks. It can reach up to 80 stacks. There's no buff below 20 stacks. From 20 to 39, you get 10% attack power buff plus 25% buff efficiency. From 40 to 79, you get 30% and 75% each. And at 80, you get 40% and 100% each. So the clear of this raid depends on how long can the team sustain full stacks. Periodical mech. Double counter and target mark. Good moment to use Dark and Atropine. This pattern happens every 40 seconds in phase 1 and 2. The boss holds his hand and charges. Then he tries to charge again, which requires a counter. If you succeed, then he requires another counter. The person who got the second counter gets 20 buff stacks and others get 10 stacks. Also, the second counter player gets a target mark. The boss aggroes to that player for 20 seconds. During the target mark, the boss is not tauntable, and he does patterns only to that player. If the target player gets hit by certain patterns, then everyone loses 10 stacks, so he must dodge the patterns. But at the same time, he should land attacks on the boss as well to sustain the buff stacks. Because of that, for the first counter, the DPS classes go for it, and the supporter goes for the second one to get the target mark. Then the supporter just have to buff the team and sustain the buff stacks while kiting the boss. For others, it's a free DPS time for 20 seconds until the target disappears. The boss starts with a fixed pattern. He punches to the target, and then stomps the side where the target is. This stomp attacks the half of the field including where the boss is. It does a lot of damage. The target should spacebar to the other side when he tries to stomp. Others should stay on the safe side. The problem is, sometimes the target player may not be seen from others. So you make a rule. The target player should stay on where his gauntlet is and spacebar to the other side. In this way, other 3 players can stay in the safe zone in advance, even if they miss where the target player is. After the fixed pattern, he can do the following patterns. Laser. The boss aims a laser to the target. If you get hit, then he shoots the laser again. Energy Orb. The boss shoots orbs to the target, move side by side. Uppercut. The boss uppercuts the target and smashes him. Multi-hook. The boss hooks the target multiple times. Stomp. The boss stomps the target 3 times. Multi-punch. The boss punches the target multiple times. Supernova co-op counter. This pattern happens around every 2 minutes in phase 1 and 2. The boss generates an orb in the front and punches multiple times. Then he requires a counter. If you succeed the counter, that person gets pushed out. Then the boss requires co-op counter, which requires 2 more people. In the normal mode, only the co-op counter comes out. Don't stay in his front until the punch finishes, and then do the first counter. Others do the co-op counter. If it fails, then it's most likely a wipe. Special pattern. The boss does this pattern in random timing during phase 1 and 2. He howls and punches the front, then backsteps. If he backsteps by 1 step, then he requires a stagger check. The stagger check has a very short window, but it requires a very low stagger. If you fail, then he punches in a wide range. If he backsteps by 2 steps, then he uppercuts. You should not be in his front since he will earthquake all the players by striking the ground if someone got hit by the uppercut. When his HP reaches 70%, then he requires stagger check by doing either ice or fire pattern. If it's fire, then he hits right and left back. If it's ice, then he hits left back and right left back. If you succeed the stagger, then he requires another stagger. Succeed the stagger by dodging the patterns. And stay in front of him since he moves to the other field by grabbing the players in front of him. Now the phase 2 begins. Phase 2 special pattern. He can do 2 more patterns including the phase 1 special patterns. If he hooks 2 times instead of punching and steps back by 1 step, then he holds a shield, which is a retaliation. Stop the DPS. If he hooks and backsteps by 2 steps, then he requires a co-op counter, which needs 2 people. Phase 2 periodical pattern. He can do 2 more patterns including the previous supernova pattern. 1. The boss stomps the ground, which requires typing game. You will also get a pointer invert debuff that lasts for a few seconds. Succeed the typing test and stagger the boss by pointing at the opposite direction. When the debuff disappears, then continue the stagger by pointing at the correct direction. 2. The boss requires stagger check by doing either fire or ice pattern. Stagger him by dodging the patterns. And counter him at the end. When his HP reaches 35%, then he punches a player for 5 times. After the last punch, he requires a counter. Dodge his punch and puddles and succeed the counter. Then stay in front of him since he grabs the players in the front right away and moves to the other field. He will change his color by doing damage on the outer side, so stick close to him. Now the phase 3 begins. Periodical mech, counter and target mark. In phase 3 and 4, he also does this target pattern but in a different way. He charge punches to a player for 3 times. On the third one, he requires a counter once. Let the supporter counter so that he gets the target mark. The boss does certain patterns to the target for 20 seconds that can reduce all the players' buff stacks by 10. He starts with a fixed pattern which hits the target in a wide range for 3 times. Just make some distance and dodge side by side. After the fixed pattern, he can do the following patterns. Jump. The boss jumps to the target for 3 times. Charge punch. The boss charge punches to the target. Swing. The boss pounds 2 times and swing one side. The safe zone is where his arm is. When his HP reaches 18%, then he stands up and jumps to the center of the field. Stick to him after he jumps. Then he stomps the ground for 3 times. Remember the shape of the last stomp. It can be either X or cross. Then a green safe zone appears, and one player gets a target mark. The boss will strike where the target is. The goal of this mech is to aggro the boss to the certain direction so that he strikes the opposite side of the safe zone. The strike hits half of the side, and if it touches the safe zone, then it disappears, which is a raid wipe by the next attack. He does this strike 3 times, and the target changes every time. Let me tell you how you do this. If the third stomp is X, then the target player stays on the counterclockwise direction of the safe zone and spacebar into the safe zone when he tries to strike. For the second strike, the target goes to clockwise direction and spacebar in. For the last strike, just stay in the center of the safe zone. If the third stomp is cross, then the target player stays on clockwise direction and spacebar. For the second strike, counterclockwise. And for the last one, the target stays on donut side of the safe zone. That's the end of this mech. While all this is happening, you have to attack the boss in the safe zone to sustain the buff stacks. Normal patterns. I will only cover the patterns that are different from the original Hanumatan raid. Phase 1 and 2. Multi-stomp. The boss stomps the front multiple times. Then he stomps the inner side, which AoE attacks the outer side. Stay out and then stick close after the last stomp. X and cross. The boss pounds the ground, which attacks in X and cross. Also, puddle happens on all the players for 4 times. Just move far bit by staying between the X and cross range. In phase 2, he earthquakes at the end, so you need to spacebar. Jump. The boss jump strikes, which earthquakes the players. Spacebar when he tries to land. Earthquake combo. If someone is earthquaked, then the boss slams that player, which does massive damage. Laser. The boss lasers to a player. If someone got hit, then he turns to that same player and shoots second laser that has a wide range. It's the number 1 pattern that sabotages other players' buff stacks. If someone got hit by the first laser, then prepare to spacebar out from the second one. Teleport laser. The boss disappears and shoots laser in 6 directions. Then he appears to a player and shoots laser with his clone. When the boss disappears, it does damage when you're close, so stay away. Then everyone gathers in one direction where there's no laser. When the boss appears, spacebar to his back and the DPS. If someone got hit by the laser from the boss, then he turns to the aggro and shoots laser again. Getting hit by the clone's laser doesn't trigger the second laser. Uppercut. The boss uppercuts. If someone got hit, then he tries to grab him. Save him by countering him after the pound. Teleport pound. The boss teleports and pounds the ground. Stick close to his backside when he appears. Backstep and laser. The boss backsteps and stomps the front. If someone got hit, then he lasers clockwise. Phase 3 and 4. Triple jump. The boss jumps on a player for 3 times. The aggro changes in between the attacks. Backstep and cone. The boss steps back and attacks the front in a cone range. In phase 4, he attacks in 270 degree, so move to his back when he steps back. Triple ground punch and jump. The boss punches the ground 3 times and jumps on a player. Then he steps back and attacks the front in a cone range. Double ground punch and earthquake. The boss punches the ground 2 times and jumps, which earthquakes the players. Spacebar before he lands. Turning punch. The boss turns by punching the front. At the end, he attacks in multiple lines and AoE attacks the outer side. Turn with him from his back, and then stay out to dodge the lines, then stick close again. Multiple jump. The boss looks at a player and jumps multiple times. The aggro player makes a distance where there's no puddles. Others DPS from his back. The 4th jump earthquakes the players, so spacebar. Triangle pound. The boss pounds the ground in 3 triangular directions. The last pound is able to be countered. Check his first 2 directions and then stand by in the last direction to counter. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching and hit the like and sub if it helped you. Stay geeked, spam noted.